case, order, order, I call Henry Smith to move the motion.
Dr. Huck, it's a pleasure to serve with you being in the chair today for this important debate, and I move that this House has considered support for the aviation, travel and tourism sectors as we seek to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm delighted to see my honourable friend, the Minister, the Member for Witney, in his place as well, and of course interested to hear his comments towards the end. Aviation, travel and tourism were one of the first sectors to face the negative effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. It was almost immediate, and unfortunately, because of the nature of the industry and the restrictions still in place, will be one of the slowest to fully recover. In normal times, before the pandemic, over 1.5 million people were employed in the sector, and sadly many of those have lost their jobs over the previous 15 or so months. About 50% of people in the sector are still on furlough. A furlough that of course comes to an end at the end of September, so I fear if travel, aviation and tourism can't pick up in a meaningful way over the coming summer weeks and months, then many more people in the sector who are currently on furlough will unfortunately lose their jobs. This is devastating for aviation communities like mine in the Gatwick area, and an assessment of unemployment from February 2020 to February 2021 showed that unemployment had increased by 115% across the nation. But for the top 20 aviation communities in the country, that was an increase in unemployment of 147%. And as I say, I don't think we have seen the worst of the situation yet. But don't mistake this for being some parochial plea for support for the sector, because aviation and international connectivity is essential for the UK economy overall. Outbound travel in normal times accounts for about £37 billion contribution to our economy, and inbound travel accounts for some £28 billion. Travel that hasn't been able to meaningfully operate now for a year and a half, and the impact, of course, has been significant. Indeed, if we were able to operate in a more meaningful way over this summer, then it would be a contribution to the UK economy of an estimated £19 billion, quite significant. The title of this debate is Support for the Travel and Aviation sectors. The best way that they can be supported is to be allowed to meaningfully and safely operate. If that isn't able to happen, then I'm afraid the bill for unemployment benefits this coming autumn and winter will be a significant burden to the taxpayer, and many companies, employers in the sector will be coming to the government asking for bailouts. Far better we let the industry recover and make money for the UK Exchequer, whose bills are already significant, rather than cost it some more. I pay tribute, Dr. Huck, to the government for the world-leading vaccination programme that we have seen over the last 6 months. We were told just before Christmas that if we had a successful vaccination programme, then that would allow us our liberty and to get back to much more normal life. Yesterday, I think we hit the target of 60% plus of people across the country who have now been doubly jabbed with COVID-19 vaccines. And I fear that we are squandering that vaccine dividend that we were told, as I said, would allow us far greater freedoms once again. We are just quite simply now at a competitive disadvantage. If you look to many countries in the EU and elsewhere in the world, they are allowing a far greater degree of countries that can be travelled to, particularly for those who have received full COVID-19 vaccinations. And this isn't just about 2 weeks on the beach in a sunny environment, nice though that is. This is about global Britain. This is about us being a trading nation. For every day that there isn't meaningful travel transatlantically between the UK and the US, there's an estimated impact of £32 billion lost to the British economy. I welcome and I support the government's traffic light system for international travel. It is absolutely right that, unfortunately, where still in parts of the world there are far too high a case of COVID-19 in different jurisdictions, that we protect ourselves against that and new variants, and I support for those quarantine arrangements. But for countries that have similar vaccination rollout success and have similar or lower infection rates than the UK, I think we do need to have, for amber and for green list countries, a much more pragmatic regime. And I welcome the government reportedly looking at, for those who are fully vaccinated from travelling from amber countries, only having to test rather than having to quarantine at home. I think that would be very positive. But I think we need to go further, not only expanding that green list of countries, and I welcome again reports that Malta and the Balearic Islands may be added to that list, announced, we understand, later today, but that list needs to be far wider than that. The cost and the complexity of COVID-19 testing for international passengers is also a major disincentive for people to travel. If you're a family of four, it really becomes prohibitive, and we have a ridiculous situation where many tests are actually more expensive than the flights itself. So perhaps more rapid antigen testing for the lower risk countries would be appropriate, particularly if also dealing with people who are fully vaccinated. And then if there is a positive test, well, they can have a PCR test to back that up. What is interesting is that of those who have been tested, who have been able to travel, less than 1% have proved positive in that test. This is about people's jobs and people's livelihoods. It's not just about going on holiday. Airports are likely to lose a further £2.6 billion if we don't see meaningful opening up. We are losing about £60 million in exports throughout this period because we don't have people able to visit to this country and spend their money here. Finally, Dr. Huck, because I would like to give way to make sure that as many colleagues as possible can take part, and I'm grateful to honourable and right honourable members today from all parts of the country and all sides of the House for contributing to this important debate. Just a comment on where the respect for the restrictions is beginning to seriously break down. We hear that Wembley will be three-quarters full for the Euro finals because there's going to be an exception made for VIP guests from UEFA to be able to come to London. Now, I don't mind Wembley being near capacity. I actually welcome those easing of restrictions. But what isn't right is one rule for VIPs and another rule for everybody else. While parents can't go to their school sports days, VIPs shouldn't be able to be coming into Wembley. So I think the answer is that we are opening up in a realistic and pragmatic way to save our economy, to save jobs, and to recover our economy from the devastating effects of COVID-19. As I said, the best way to support the travel, aviation and tourism sectors is allow them to operate and to save those jobs, to make money for our economy, rather than being yet another burden on every taxpayer for years to come. Thank you.